Hello, my YouTube world. Johnny Mo coming to you with a live video today. I want to try to stick to a point on this video. What I'm going to talk about is too much rain or drought. In 23 years, obviously, I've experienced quite a few of these issues: too much rain and too much drought. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go over what I do in each and every instance on how I deal with too much rain and what I did when you have a drought situation. So let's go over some of the complexes of business. Too much rain in Illinois. Yes. We are definitely we are overboard on rain here too. It rained 4 days, and when I say it rained 4 days, I mean pretty much full days. Our lawns are oversaturated, and for 2 days on Friday and most of Saturday it did not rain, and late Saturday it was just starting to get to the point where, you were making a little bit of a mud mark, but not to the point where you were blacking out a whole lawn. And then at 8 o'clock, I was on a lawn, and it got so dark, it just poured rain all night long. It's just to the point now where, I have 5 lawns I'm carrying over. For next week. I did the best I could, just couldn't make it. So I want to talk to you about what to do in the weather situation. The first thing you need to do is make sure that if mowing is a part of your mix, the first thing you got to do is make sure that your schedule is within reason. I've talked about this in the last video, but I'm going to briefly go over it. So I have a calendar right here, and I personally have 5 days of mowing. I could get it done in 4. It would be a long 4 days. I spread it out over 5 days. There are 2 days that are a little bit hefty in there. It would be my Wednesday and Friday. My Wednesday and Friday this year, I think one is like an 8-hour day, the other is a 9-hour day. Those 2 days are an issue right now. The rest of them, like my Monday list, I can get done in 4.5 to 5 hours. My Tuesday list is a 6-hour. My Thursday list is a 5-hour. What that does, though, is it gives me a couple hours each day, 2, 4, 6, to get a mulch job ready or to prune. So what you need to do, the very first thing you need to do is to get your list and prioritize them. Get them on the days that they need to get there. I personally do all commercial on Monday because they fall on Memorial Day and Labor Day. That way I don't miss anything. I work both of those days. They both fall on Monday. That way I can just go out. I'm not bothered. I'm not bothering anyone's picnic. I just pull in, do the work. Really cool. Then I start to do my residentials. I have not been able to back my Friday list up to Thursday. For whatever reason, customers, just even after 23 years, they just like that lawn cut on Friday. So first thing I'll do is once the kids are out of school, I will start my work morning at 7 o'clock in the morning. I will go out. I will maintain the mowers. I will grease the fittings. I will clean the decks, make sure the blades are sharp, and then I'll start a prune job. And I'll work for a couple hours until I notice the grass is dried up. I'll get that ready, and then I'll go about my mowing day. And whenever time I finish, then I come home, depending on what my girl schedules are. And so each day, except for Wednesdays, I still do a little bit of pruning on Wednesday because I get up at 7 o'clock in the morning. I start out, and Fridays. Those are the 2 days that are a little iffy. And to be honest with you, I'm struggling with those 2 days right now. I don't like to pack that Friday out, because if it does rain on a Thursday, I don't have a chance to get caught up on Friday. So that's still a mistake that I'm making right now. I'm trying to fix it, but I'm telling you that even after 23 years, I'm still making a little bit of mistake, considering how much rain we are getting. So I'm on a Sunday today, and I've got 5 lawns. I've got 5 lawns. One of them's a cemetery, and 2 are businesses. So I'm probably going to sneak in there at some point today. And I have 2 back-to-back homeowners that I know I can get today. I generally don't work Sundays. I've worked them over the years here and there, but this year, this is my first Sunday that I've had to work this year. I'm going to work this year. Not a big fan of it. Love going to church. I believe church should be an active part of your life. I don't believe Sunday's a regular day. I believe it's a day of rest. I believe it's a day of worship. I believe it's a great day for family activities, which I'm still going to have a picnic tonight with my kids. And then I'll start over fresh on Monday. So, very first thing you need to do when it's considering weather situations, book yourself in such a way that you can get caught up. You know, if it rains on a Monday, I can do my Monday and Tuesday list together on Tuesday. It's a longer day, but this is the field that we chose. If you want to work an 8 to 4 job, this ain't it. The weather is never going to cooperate with you in that way. So now, let's deal with the different aspects of rain. We're going to deal with drought a little later in this video, but let's deal with the different aspects of rain and what I do. So, in this instance, if I were to carry those lawns over to tomorrow, which still might happen, I might get up from here and say, I'm just going to carry them. If I carry those lawns over to tomorrow, so that's my Friday list, I will cut them on Monday. And then I'll go cut my Monday list. And then I will put them back on the right day the same week. Like, Johnny, how can you do that? Now, if you have a bunch of Ediths, you're going to have an issue with that. You were just here on Monday, Johnny. You were just here on Monday. I'm not paying you all that money to cut my grass. You cut it way too high. All right, so here's what I do. First of all, you get rid of Ediths. You get rid of those accounts as soon as you can, because there's nothing you'll ever be able to do. If it's too wet, they'll never let you cut it. When you do cut it, it's a mess. You did a bad job. Their husband always did it better. Bill was out there all day, Johnny. All day. It was meticulous. I had the nicest lawn in all the neighborhood. He cut it 5 days a week. I see why, Edith. I see why. I've had a bunch of Ediths over the years. A bunch of them. So what I will do on that Monday is I will go in and I'll actually cut them probably a ½ inch higher, and then I'll knock them back down on that, whatever their day is. Even if it's on a Thursday, I'll put them right back on Thursday, and I'll get them. And if they say anything, it's just explain to them, listen, these are the days you're on. I couldn't cut you last week because it was too wet. I'm cutting you right here, and I'm putting you right back on schedule. You're not paying any more. You lost a week last week, and now you're making it up this week. So it's no big deal, and generally it isn't. But if you have customers that do complain, well, you're going to have some issues. Now, that's how I handle rain delays that get pushed. And I will say that I don't push a lot of lawns. Like, over the years, I haven't pushed a lot of lawns. In the last 3 years, I think I've pushed more than I ever have before. But I haven't pushed a lot of lawns over the year. I'm pretty diligent about being aggressive. Also, being in this business, even when I had crews, I was really aggressive. Like, if it was home, I was home, and it was good morning. If I was home and it rained from like 8 to 11:30, obviously calling employees in is a no-go. It's not gonna happen. They're gonna conveniently, phones on the charger, they're not coming in. So just scrap it. If you call them up, just scrap the day for the employees. But I was always aggressive. If it got nice and I could cut I'd work the afternoon shift. I would do a 1 to 6, 1 to 7. I'd go out and take the equipment out. Just think you're just no pressure. Again, if you've chosen this for your career, you're gonna have issues. You're gonna have. It's not an 8 to 4 job. It's not a 7 to 3, unless you make it that way. Unless you're cutting only 5 lawns a day. But if you want to make a good income, you're gonna have to sacrifice sometimes. And and it's a raining season, that's the sacrifice. You're gonna have. It's all time. You're just juggling time here. I call it the morning. I call it the morning shift, the day shift. 8 to 4 is the day shift. 4 to 8 is the night shift. Sometimes I work. The last 2 nights I've worked. Yesterday I started at 8. I started a prune job in the morning. I worked there till about 11, and then I cut till it rained at 8 o'clock. I cut from about, I'd say about, by the time I got to my first lawn, it was about 12. So 12 to 8. Finished up that pruning, cleaned it up real quick, and then I worked till 8 o'clock at night until it stopped raining. If it wouldn't have rained, I would have got those other 2 residential done too. But I don't really like to be on people's property after 8 o'clock. I've done it, but I just don't like it. So, first thing first, make sure that you can get all your lawns done in 1 week. The second thing, what do you do when things come up in life? Like, if you're so booked out, when the phone rings and something goes wrong, hey, your mom's in the hospital, hey, your daughter got cut at school, all of a sudden you're losing income because you didn't properly plan. Life is going to happen. I remember one year my mom went in a hospital for a month, and it was so hard going up in the morning, coming up at lunchtime, coming down at dinner time. If you're so overbooked, you'll miss out on things. And if you're so overbooked, what happens? You start getting a bad name. Sure, your mom's in a hospital, you had a death in the family. They can get that for a week, but that same excuse after a month ain't going to work. So you can't be that overbooked. You got to make allowances for rain. Rain is going to happen. So let's go to the other scenario. The other scenario is it rains all week long. It rains 5 days straight. Has not happened much, but it has happened. We had a hurricane come through, and it turned into a low pressure system that just kept doing this. It sat right over the state of Pennsylvania and kept rapping and rapping. I've never seen anything like it. It rained for 6 days straight. So, took that 7th day off, started back up on the day, and we cut the route the regular way. There was nothing to be carried over. We just missed a whole week. Now, this is what I did. Other people do it different ways. I charge time and a half. So if it's a $40 lawn, it became a $60 lawn. It's happened 2 times in 23 years that it's been like that. What I've done, I only had 1 complaint. I always explain to them what I did on the invoice. I typed up a letter, I put it in with the invoice, and I sent it to them. And I only had 1 complaint in all those years, but it only happened twice. It's not my fault that it rained all week. Obviously, it's not your fault either. You did not get cut last week. Now, are you doing double the work the following week? Probably not. So that's why I don't charge double. If you choose to charge double, that's fine. You do whatever you. To me, it was an even mix for me. This is what I do. I'm not saying this is what you should do. It's just what I do. If I hold over a day, say I hold over Friday and it has to be done on Monday, I will work my butt off till I get caught up, and I'll put them right back on the list on Friday. That's how I do it. Oh, Edith. You know what? This last comment, I'm so sorry you're going through that. Your wife had a stroke. Um, I just pray blessings on you. I pray for the peace of God to really help you through that. There's Johnny Mo salute. Help you through that. I know that's tough, and those are the things that I'm talking about right now. I'm going to answer that. Real quickly, Little Wonder's better than Billy Goat. Plain and simple. I'm just going to answer. It doesn't even need to be discussed anymore. Little Wonder over Billy Goat. But that's what I'm talking about. And then you put yourself in a situation where you got the spring rush trap, you're overbooked, and you're battling the side effects of having your wife have a stroke, who helps you out in business. Um, Jumping back on the weather, I will put them right back on schedule if it's just a day or two. I'm glad she's doing good. I'm really glad. If you lose a whole week, I charge time and a half for the next week. A $40 lawn becomes a $60 lawn. And that's just how I do it. I'm not saying that you should do it that way. That's how I deal with rain. Make sure you're not overbooked. I'm really aggressive. If it's raining in the morning, or it's only going to rain for 2 hours, I will be back at it. You got to be aggressive in this business. Don't lose that much time. Just keep being aggressive. Try to keep on track. Get your stuff done. So, what do you do with drought? Drought, to me, is a little bit more severe than rain. I've been through several droughts. The one in particular was a 2001 drought. I remember by the end of May, the lawns were already turned brown. By June, they were dormant. So basically, literally, I got a little bit of April in, about 3 weeks in May, maybe 3 weeks in May. By the third week, I was skipping half. By the fourth week, I was skipping the other half. By June, they were all, every lawn north of Pittsburgh where I live, there was no cutting. There was nothing to cut. They were all done. I had one shade lawn that the person just watered because they planted new grass and they didn't want to lose it. So they watered it. I was able to cut one grass a week. Luckily, it was a $100 lawn. That is a little bit more difficult. So my trailer stayed home June, July, August, and then by September 9th, I still have the books. I keep these calendars, by the way. I still have these calendars. That's a 2019. I can pull out the 2001 calendar and go back, and I'll put little notes on it like, hey, this was hard. And what you notice over the years, you can see patterns. You can see patterns when it's really difficult. What's funny is, I will get back to the drought. What's funny is, the 3 hardest weeks to mow are the 3 most busiest mulch times for the Northeast here. So your hardest time of mowing is your biggest demand for mulch. Mowing and mulch really don't go along too well unless you're running crews. Mowing and mulch can be very difficult because by the 4th of July, you have to have all your mulch laid. Pretty much to a standard. By Memorial Day, a good amount of them, they want to be done. After 4th of July, you just ticked off a lot of customers. And the mowing and the mulch, they just don't go hand in hand. You would think that they would, but all your first time trimmings have to be done by the 4th of July. And you got to do all of that work and then cut all of those lawns at the hardest. You're just setting yourself up for failure. I've come to believe that mowing and mulching just don't go together. They just don't. Generally, the drought issues don't affect you until June. At the latest, at the earliest, probably the 3rd week in May. And then June, July, and August could be totally washed like it was for me in 2001. I'm going to explain to you what I did those years. And because of that one year, 2001, always some of the best videos, Johnny. Thanks. Because of that year, 2001, I've always kept a hefty load of mulching, prunings, and everything. Because if it does get dry in June, boy, you can wipe out a lot of those in June. But the problem is when you get a rainy year like the last 3 years, the mowing and mulching become very, just you want to pull your hair out. That year, 2001, is the year I got married. I remember being on our honeymoon in North Carolina, Outer Banks, Devil Hills, and I'll never forget looking at the weather and seeing it was 90s every day back home. And I'm like, there's going to be no work for me when I come home. When I got home, I mean, literally there was nothing to cut. So there's a couple things here. Number one, that's when the little Edith lawns come into play. Edith lawns grow because their husbands cut it to the ground for 30 years. Well, guess what grows no matter what? Crabgrass. Crabgrass grows in drought because hubby cut it for 44 years. My husband came home, Johnny, from the mill. He worked from 12-hour shift, Johnny, and he'd come home and he'd cut that lawn. He'd cut it to the ground. He'd just put that mower all the way down and cut. He cut it every day. And, well, those little Edith lawns, they grow in drought. So, there, I had some Edith lawns. Not productive, but that was work that I could do. At that time, I had quite a few Edith lawns. What I did do on my nice accounts, so what I did is once every other week, I went around to every one of my properties. I would weed whack them because there's certain weeds that'll still grow and they'll get it. I would weed whack the high spots. I would just go around, pick weeds. If you had a tree, if you had a snow fountain cherry, I would just charge you to prune it up real quick. I sold extra prunings. I sold extra mulch. And how I did this is I just sat on my phone. I got on my phone, called all my customers that I already mowed for, and I said, hey, I have some free spots in my schedule. I noticed that you had this at your property. It hasn't been taken care of. If no one is taking care of that, you're saving money on your lawn bill. It hasn't rained in a couple months. Would you be interested in me just pruning everything up? And I sold so many of those. But what I did is it affected me to the point of where I have a lot of extra work. And every year I just kept adding those because and plus it wasn't, when you have employees, you got to keep them busy. You can't just lay them off because of, the weather. So I always piled on the mulchings, the edgings, the pruning. I did a lot of that stuff. Now I don't do so much of it more. I was doing a lot. I think the last year that I did mulching, the last year that I did a lot of mulching, I was up to about 160 yards of mulch a year. The previous years, we were up over 200, 300. We were just mulching all the time. And I didn't have the equipment for it. Like 30-yard mulch jobs don't sound like a lot to some people. But when you just have wheelbarrows and you don't have loaders. I'm Bob, he's Cat. Together we're Bobcat. Johnny Mo salute. We used to think that we were really something. But as I've gotten older, I can tell you that those days affected me today. Those days take time off of you later on in life because you just work like a dog. So things that I did when I went through my most serious drought, I'm not talking about just a month of dry weather. I'm talking about June, July. Do you still charge 1.5 if you skip a week? Yes. I haven't had to skip a week, but if I do, yes. If I do, if I were to have to skip this week, the whole week. Generally, what happens though, 9 out of 10 times, generally what happens is I'm only pushed a day or two, and then I'll work really hard that next week to put those back on the list. But considering drought, Call your customers, upsell some work. That's when you can do the mulching. You have plenty of time to do it. If you can sell an extra 10 jobs a month, there's your mowing. There's your mowing cost for the month. Find out what you mow for the week, and just that's what I did. Is I kept selling until I hit that number. Kept selling until I hit that number. And what did happen though that bit me in the butt was I sold so much work. When it started raining again in September, I was screwed because I had a ton of work and people liked my job, so they just put us on a list for next year. Well, I was up to like 80 jobs a year, and I'm like, whoa. I mean, when you're mowing 5 days a week, and again, guys, this is all about time. This is all time. You're finding a way to add more time in the day. If you've got 5 days of mowing, it's really hard to do a couple jobs of mulch a week. So if you got 80 jobs, and in the Northeast, you have about 30 weeks of mowing. About. Give or take a few. You can go 30. Most I ever did was 36. The least I ever did was 13, which was in 2001. I did 13 weeks of mowing that particular year. I had a couple. I've had some 20s, some 23s, but for the most part, I'm between 28 and 32. So I say about 30 weeks of mowing. So if you can only do one job a week and you've got 80 jobs, you're about 50 jobs short. I mean, you really got to hustle. So over the years, I've just cut it back. I'm down to 36 jobs a year, and I'm still cutting that back. I think I have, last time I checked, I have 22 left on the calendar, and it is the first week in June. So it's going to be a tough June, especially with kids with softball and different activities. So it's going to be a tough June. That's what I did for drought. Drought is worse than rain. I'm just going to be absolutely honest with you. Again, I'm going to go over again what I did for drought. Drought, I went every 2 weeks. I weed whacked the lawn. I would charge them, if it was a $40 lawn, honestly, I would charge them like 20 bucks. You're like, John, it's 20 bucks. I mean, you can't charge them 40. You can't charge them 40. I would just go in, weed whack a couple high spots. If I spent some time picking weeds, I would charge them, I'd give them an upcharge, maybe say 30 bucks, pick the weeds, weed whacked around the house real quick. Just kept the property looking kind of decent. Obviously I didn't charge that for pruning. I charged a lot more for pruning, but I would go in every property. But the problem was the next year they wanted me to still pick all the weeds. And so that's tough. That was tough. We had to break them of that, but that was really tough because they were used to that service where you came and did everything, and now all of a sudden you're sitting there at the beginning of June after Memorial Day and their beds are full of weeds. Well, I thought you were going to pick them since you were here every week. Well, if I picked every person's weeds that I mowed, just giving you some tips, and I'm also giving you some issues with those tips. Upsold pruning, upsold some, drainage. If you had some, gutter issues, I would dig it up, try to figure that out. There's all kinds that you can clean out gutters for a little bit. I was just trying to replace 3 months of income because that's about what I lost. I lost last week in May, all of June, all of July, and all of August until, I remember it was September 9th is when it started raining. And then by September, literally, seriously, by September 15th, the grasses were coming back full swing. But some of the fertilizing companies had put a 100% slow release on, or a 75% slow release. And what was happening is that rain was hitting it, and those grasses grew through the week. The last week in September and most of October were just terrible cutting. I mean, the lawns were so thick, and they were all back, and everyone was selling aerations and overseedings. And man, I mean, everyone was aerating and overseeding that year. And that was a big seller too. But so that's what I do. That's what I do for rain, and that's what I do for drought. And those are the suggestions that I would say. Doesn't mean it'll work for you. It just, that's what it works for me. So what I'm going to do here, I'm going to end this video. I believe that was a comprehensive session on weather-related items. Now, I am going to answer 2 questions. So whoever has a question out there, I'm going to answer 2 questions at the end of this video, and then I'm going to get going. I got to get my mower ready. So 2 questions here. First 2 that pop up, I'm going to answer. I already answered one other question earlier. Little Wonder over Billy Goat. I only because I did the testing on both of them, and I felt that the Little Wonder was better. Little Wonder is heavier. So 2 questions. Go ahead, pop them up. Pop them up. Type them up. Quick question. I'm not getting any question here. If I don't get any question here, okay, here we go. No. But that I don't send out newsletter, but that reminds me. Good point. Thanks for reminding me. We're gonna go. This goes back into the weather thing. When the weather's bad and you leave a few mud marks in a lawn, not ruts, but a few mud marks, I will attach something with the invoice explaining, hey, this is what's going on with your lawn, and I'll say, why do I have brown marks in my lawn? And I'll explain it. What do you think about bad boy mowers? I'll answer that here in a minute. I'll attach it saying what is going on is your water so heavy that the mud is coming up over the lawn. Nothing is wrong. These marks will go away. When the weather irons out, everything will be fine. I do skip certain areas of lawn. Like I'll go in and I'll cut like as much of the lawn as I can. If I think I'm going to get stuck or I'm going to leave dark black marks everywhere, I won't even cut that part of the lawn. I'll just skip into next week. I charge the same amount because when I come in next week, I'm going to end up cutting. It's going to take me a while to get that part of the lawn back in shape whenever I do. I generally don't like to go 3 weeks on a lawn. So if I skip that area this week, the next week, bare minimum, I'm weed whacking it. And it sucks if you're weed whacking a large area, but that's what I do. And obviously, I don't charge them any more for that because I charged them full price last week. I have found, though, when you're dealing with a lawn like that, it takes longer because you're playing with your mower to see where you can get in and out of. And so that's what I do. I attach a letter with the invoice saying, I just put a question, why does my lawn have black or brown marks in it? I explain it's just mud coming to the surface and covering the grass. Everything will be fine. Now, if you're rutting it and getting stuck, wrong. If the whole lawn is black, don't cut it. Don't cut a bunch of black marks. You will rut the lawn. It'll fix itself, but don't do that. Just skip it. Wait till it's dried out a little bit. Cut what you can, and then walk away from it. So, what's my opinion on bad boy mowers? All right, I've never rode the newest one, the Renegade. I can't, or the Outlaw, Renegade Outlaw. I've never had a good opinion on bad boy mowers. When they came out, I tried them. They had a nifty idea, easy to work on, easy to get to stuff. I just didn't like the way they rode. I didn't like the way they cut. And up to about 3 years ago, I still don't like the way they cut. I'm not saying that you shouldn't buy a bad boy. I definitely wouldn't buy a bad boy from Tractor Supply. I'm not a fan of the bad boy. I don't think they're where they need to be. Kind of nifty. Their newest mower looks like they did some changes. I'm just not a fan of their deck, the way they cut. They make too much of a mess. Just not a fan. Bad boy mowers, I'm just not a fan. And, I think they have a standard now, too. I think, maybe not. Maybe it's Husqvarna. Husqvarna has a standard. You know how I feel about standards. There's a place for them. They're here to stay. I just don't think they're going to take over, especially for acreage mowing. Here's another thing. I don't understand. One of the guys on here really made a good point about a standard, and then I failed I actually failed to think about this. How many people have died using a zero turn as opposed to a stander? Because you could just step off the stander, whereas you get stuck on a zero turn. That is a very good point and a legitimate point. I'm going to answer that, and I failed to think about that. That is something to think about. You can kill yourself with a zero turn, and as far as productivity, I still think the zero turn is more productive, especially when it comes to when you want to lift the deck up because it might scalp. You could just push the deck up a little bit with your foot, or you know you can't. It's hard to steer and hold the deck up like you're pulling it up a little bit and you're trying to steer and I do that a lot with my deck. I kind of push it up, and sometimes if I only have to go over a couple lines, I just hit the deck up real quick, go over those couple lines, and be done with it. I still believe that a 52 zero turn is still more productive than a 52 stander. I just, with everything that you do, it's just my opinion. I think your life is safer though on a stander. I really do. Now, if you're doing a lot of small properties, I think a stander's the way to go. If you're doing a lot of hills and that stander's very good on hills, I think a stander's the way to go. If you have properties with heels on it, I wouldn't take my life for a zero turn. I really wouldn't. There's some zero turns that can hold a heel, but that person who made that statement, that kind of turned me a little bit. Like, you know what? You're right. A stander is it's safer, and that's something to really consider. Unfortunately, standers are still pretty heavy. If the standers were an 800 pound area, 900 pound, I could see. But the standards that I would look at are the ZK Killer and the Z3, and they're 1,300 pounds, and that's just as heavy as my zero turn. My 2100 was like 1291 or 1300, and those are right there with it. Um, but I'm changing my mind about the standards because of the safety output, and because the hillside stability. If you have a lot of lawns that are just you're all hill, I would definitely consider a stander over a zero turn. Uh, Billy Goat asked me a question and I can't see it. Can you re-put that question up? I'm going to answer that question, Billy Goat. If you can put that question right back, maybe copy and paste it, because I can't see my. Let me see here. I can't see. Do you network with other lawn care companies? Okay, I can see them now. Yes, I do. Especially when I go on vacations. I actually have a company that will actually cut. I'll cut as much as I can. I usually take a vacation. I'll usually start Wednesday to Sunday. Is generally how I do it. So I'll cut as much as I can Monday and Tuesday. I'll leave Tuesday night, go on vacation, and uh, sometimes I'll even go from Wednesday to Monday, and then come home Monday evening. But yeah, I network with quite a few actually. In fact, I special announcement here. Special announcement. I just sold my steel combi set. I sold my steel special announcement. And for those who've tuned in to this video, here's a special announcement. I sold a pair of hedge trimmers, and I sold all of my Bosch equipment. Every piece of Bosch. And you're just like, Johnny, I thought you were Bosch for life. I was. And I still believe that Bosch makes a great piece of equipment. But they don't sell outside yard equipment. So I sold it all, and I went all Milwaukee. I bought Milwaukee. I bought everything Milwaukee. I bought the drills, the compacts, the everything, the drivers, the cutoff saws, the grease gun. I bought it all. I've got Milwaukee everything. I even bought the hedge trimmer set. I used them yesterday for the first time, and I am blown away. Am I saying they're as powerful as a steel gas? No, I'm not. But I'm telling you, I pruned for an hour and 15 minutes straight, and I only used one bar on the 9 amp hour Milwaukee. One bar. I bought the combi set for Milwaukee. They did not send it to me, although I would have taken it if they would have sent it, because I spent like $2,100. I spent $2,100 on the whole system. I got the Impact, supposed to be the strongest battery operated impact, could take lug nuts off a car. I bought another Impact. I bought the grease gun. I bought the I bought hammer drill. I bought a Dremel with it. It's their version of the Dremel. I bought Sawzall. I bought 4.5 inch grinder. I bought the cutoff. Man, I'm gonna show you all of them. I don't know. Yeah, I got the 1/2 inch Milwaukee Impact. It is a beast. It is. I had the 1/2 inch Impact for Bosch, and I liked it, but this is definitely more powerful. Besides mulch install, is there any service you offered that was not profitable at the end of the day? Profitable. That was not profitable. Pulling weeds. Pulling weeds. Pulling weeds was not profitable. You can never charge like for me, if I'm out on the job site, just me myself, I personally charge $60 an hour for me. I have a minimum of a $90 stop charge. So if I work 1 hour, it's $90. I personally charge, if I'm on the job site doing work, after that hour, $60 an hour for me. No one is going to pay $60 an hour for you to pull weeds. Most people can stand 20, 25, 30. You start giving them a bill for $90 to pull their weeds. I don't think weeds aren't profitable, but if you're there and you're doing some other things and you want to throw a $25 bill on top of it, let's say the lawn mowing is $45 to mow it, and I jump in and pull the weeds out of the beds real quick. You know, $75 for that hour. That's perfect. They can stand that, but just coming up and pulling weeds, like my minimum would be 90 for an hour. No one's going to pay that, even if it takes you, because there's, you know the deal. You know how much money's tied up when you pull up to a truck, but when you're needing as an add-on service, it's okay, but just to come up and pull weeds. But when you're in a drought situation like what we're discussing, you need to put money into the account. So weeds I've found that aren't profitable. Working for Edith is not profitable. On a good year, it's never going to be enough. Edith's always going to come out. Edith goes from the kitchen window to the living room window. I remember Edith coming out like, Edith, Johnny, you come here right now, Johnny. I am super mad at you. I am so mad at you. Look what you did to my fence line. I weed eated it, and it made a little scuff mark, and I did it. What do you want me to do? I mean, I'll stay away from it. My husband used to pull those weeds. Or working for Edith is a mess. And then you go the rhododendrons. Obviously you're supposed to get in there, air them out, hand prune them. The rhododendrons as big as the house. I got up there and I sheared them. I pulled them all down with the shear. She comes flying in. Johnny, stop, Johnny, Johnny, Johnny. Like, what? What's wrong? That's not how you prune those. Well, that's how I'm pruning them. She grabbed my hand, literally grabbed my arm, and she, no! And I'm like, ugh. I mean, this is a 90-year-old lady here, man. After that, I just told Edith, I said, I'm done, Edith. I'm done. I'm going to finish this pruning. You can't hit me. And then I called the daughter, and I said, listen, you need to do something. Seriously. I've had many Ediths over the year. I find that Ediths are very unprofitable. And it's not so much, they're just, I guess if you're 80, when you get to be 70 to 90 years old, every day you get up, I think it's on your mind. I think it's on your mind, and you say, like, this could be the day I don't make it. You know, if you get a cold, I need more information on that question. I'll answer that. When you say a two-man crew, are you on the crew or you're sending the crew? There's a difference. Two-man crew, are you sending the crew? Working for Edith, it's just so tough because her husband was so meticulous and they spent so long together. You can't hit me. Yeah, literally, she grabbed my arm and just started smacking. It didn't hurt. It's just, she wanted, it's just. Okay, Devin Jones sending the crew. Working for Ediths are unprofitable because they're always going to come out every single day. They're going to spend 5 to 10 minutes. They're going to tell you everything their husband did, everything you did wrong, and then they're going to show you their whole property and everything. So it's unprofitable. All right, so sending a crew up by themselves. This is just my opinion. There's going to be other better videos, but having done that in my 23 years, what you want to do is you do not want to overload them. You don't want to overload them. You want to make sure that it is a list that they can get done and get done pretty easily. And then you want to make sure and understand, give them time to make mistakes. Because when I set my crew out, my phone rang all the time. It just isn't the way that you did it. And then you have to go through. And sometimes it's not that it's not the way you did it. It's just the fact that they did it faster and you were there longer. Understand that you're going to have to be patient because you're going to get phone calls. Having the system in place is take the bottlenecks out of everything that a two-person crew. You might want to fuel up. Don't pay them to go fuel. Give them about 7 hours of work to do with a half-hour lunch break, and that will give them an extra half hour for the silliness that they're automatically going to do, that you're going to have to bill in. They're going to pull up to a stop. They're going to be in the middle of a conversation, and they're going to spend an extra 2-3 minutes finishing conversation. They're not, systems in place would be training them. Always make sure that at the beginning of the day you fuel up the equipment. Make sure you have weed whacker trim in your pocket so you don't walk from the back corner all the way back to the truck. Those are the simple systems in play. The biggest thing to keep employees is time plus money equals a happy employee. If you're going to work your employees, that crew, 10, 11 hours a day, and then when they pull in and they see you're out grilling and having a good time with your family, which you have every right to be, and they just had a miserable time out there, you're not going to keep your employees. So find out what the pay is in your area, and I would go, for my crew leader, I would go, if the pay in your area, say 11 to 12 bucks, I would pay him $14 an hour. I would try to keep that crew. How do you keep them during the winter? Um, See, this is the benefit about employees is it's pretty cool because you have what's called unemployment. So they're going to get 60% of their highest quarter that they made for you that year. And you get all that month, those months off for doing nothing. Now, what you want to do is find them a way to give them a bonus system that does not affect their unemployment. Meaning, they're going to get 60% of their check. You want to get them another 40%. Find a way to give them a 40% bonus throughout the year. Throughout the year, you're giving them systematic bonuses to make up for 40%. If you do it at the end, you give them a 40%, it's going to affect their unemployment. If you're doing it legit, find a way to give them a 40% on top of the 60%, so that way you're actually paying them through the winter. Realizing this, that your unemployment will be at the highest rate as soon as they collect, which you should build into every job. Um, I think that's a benefit. You work real hard till end of November or whenever you lay them off in October, usually October, November around here. About October, November, you would probably lay them off. Maybe if you got enough leaf work, you can go in November. You lay them off so they get a couple weeks in November, December, January. March, April, March, most of March. So you get 4 months off. And that's something, that's how you can attract a really good second guy is by, hey, listen, you get 4 months off, you get unemployment, and I'm going to give you 40% so that way you get 100% of your pay. Excuse me. Uh, Billy Goat's trying to get me to you know say some things about. I ran a legit business. I'm just going to be honest with you. I paid time and a half overtime. I did all of that. So I do have a pet peeve. Most of what you see on YouTube, most of it is a guy. You see a guy sitting next to him. That guy's being paid cash. As a matter of fact, I just caught a guy in a video, and I want to tell him, like, listen, IRS does watch videos like this, and I know for a fact because I talked to an IRS agent, and they don't be surprised if an IRS agent sends you a letter. Where's your workman's comp? Where's the extra taxes? Um, the guy actually said, hey, where's my cash? You didn't pay me yesterday. That is a big no-no. That is one way to lose everything. You do not want the IRS knocking on your door. So, guys, if you're watching this video and you're at the 52-minute mark, which you're probably not, but if you are, I'm telling you, watch what you're doing on video. The guy you have weed whacking, make sure that he's legit. You cannot 1099 him. If you tell him to be at your house at a certain time, he wears your shirt, he's doing your work for you, he's considered an employee. That is simply in the books of the definition of a worker versus a subcontractor. Now, if he has his own business with his own clients and he's helping you out during the week a couple times, you can 1099 him. If he has his own business, but if you're his only client, that's not a 1099. And you can get in trouble and you can get that person in trouble. But guys, that's my time. I'm not going to go into any more of that. Be very careful what you're putting out there on video. Yeah, payroll companies are good. I ran my own payroll. I actually did I had I made a thing on Excel, and all I had to do was put the hours in, and it blew everything up. Like it told me um, how I did it. This is how I did it. I always cash checks at the beginning of the week. So I do all my I do all my billing. I pay all my bills on a Monday. I pay all my bills for 10 days out. So every Monday I'll pay the next 10 days worth of bills. And on that same days, I always made payday on Monday. So that way they didn't have that great of a weekend because they're usually broke. So if you pay them on a Friday, sometimes they didn't go to work on Saturday, and then by Saturday night they just went on a bender, and Monday's a little difficult. So you pay on a Monday, they're going to come to work because they want that paycheck. I always paid on a Monday, and I always bill out for the month, so every week it seems like I have checks coming in. So what I would do is it would tell me how much FICA I needed, how much Medicare I needed. It told me everything. And I would just put that money aside every single week. So when it was time to pay it quarterly, I already I had an account set up, employee federal tax withholding, and I would just transfer that into my business checking, and then I would write the federal, the local, and the state their money, whatever I owed in that bracket. That's how I did it. I know most guys don't do it that way, and most guys get in a lot of trouble because every quarter that money's due, and then oh man, I owe $1,300. I didn't even know, and they're running so close to the vest that they forgot. I might do a video on that sometime because that's how I do it. I never not had the money. I always put the money in that separate bank account. So when it was due, bang. Like even my sales tax, I take it out every time I cash checks. I take the sales tax out. So when the sales tax due in Pennsylvania is due on the 20th of every month, I'll go into eTides account, bang, boom, 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 send them off that money. And just it's easier to do it that way, guys. But that's enough information for me. I am done. It's been 56 minutes. I'm going to go out and clean my mower. I think my church starts 15 minutes. I'm going to put them on live stream. My family's off to church while I get this stuff done. So, guys, have a great day. Hope you enjoyed this video. Play this video back over and over and over. There's so much good information in there. God bless you too, my man. So much good information in there. I think that this video here is jam-packed with that much information. Other guys are charging you for the same information. They're charging you to be a part of their website. They're writing a book. I've thought about writing a book. Guys, should I write a book? I should write a book. I might write a book. Charge $39.99, $40 for a book, total lawn care on the branch theology, spring rush trap, marketing, how to deal with weather, how to be productive. I think I'm going to do it. I think I'm going to write a book, $39.99 ebook, and I think I'm going to do it. How to be productive. I should. Yeah, I think so. I think I might write a book this year. Maybe not this year, but this winter. That's my goal. I'm going to write a book, the Johnny's Mowing Way, Johnny Mow Way, and then I'm going to end it today with the Johnny Mow salute. Guys, been great. Johnny Mow salute. Let me know if you want a book. Let me know if would you buy a book from me? Giving you all the information that I've given you over the year, just putting in a book and selling it.